I wiped the raindrops from my office window and stared at the lights of orange spread below when I suddenly realized my wife had been living a double life for 3 months. November 2024 brought rare rains to Southern California, but nothing could prepare me for the storm approaching my own life. My name is Jim, I'm 37, and I'm an architect at a mid-sized firm specializing in residential complexes. My wife Lily is a fashion blogger with nearly 100,000 followers who had turned her passion for style into a profitable business. 5 years ago we got married in a small chapel by the ocean. It was my second marriage. The first fell apart after 2 years due to different views on life. With Lily everything seemed different. She was bright, energetic, always ready for new adventures. We met at a contemporary art exhibition in Laguna Beach, where I came looking for inspiration for a new project, and she was searching for a location for a photo shoot. The first years of our marriage were filled with laughter and plans. We lived in a spacious apartment with panoramic windows in downtown Orange, from where I could get to the office in 15 minutes. Lily had converted one of the rooms into a studio for shoots. White walls, professional lighting, racks with clothes from various brands. I often heard her recording videos for Instagram, enthusiastically talking about new trends or unboxing packages from sponsors. We loved evening walks through the city when the sunset painted the sky in orange and pink tones. Lily would talk about her projects with different brands, I'd share impressions from work. Once last summer, my residential complex project almost fell through because of a contractor's mistake. They misinterpreted my facade drawings, and I had to urgently redo the documentation 2 days before the investor presentation. Lily supported me then, ordering pizza at 2 in the morning when I sat over the drawings, massaging my shoulders. We were a team. Or so I thought. The changes began in August. Lily got a contract with a new clothing brand that required more professional photo shoots. She hired a freelance photographer named Christopher, a tall guy about 30 with long hair pulled back in a ponytail and a perpetual smile on his face. They met at one of the shoots for her blog, and Lily couldn't stop praising his incredible vision of the frame and artistic approach. At first I didn't pay attention. A blogger's work involves collaboration with different people. Stylists, photographers, makeup artists. But somewhere in September something changed. Lily started going to Los Angeles for shoots more often. Once a week, then twice, then almost every day. The distance between Orange and Los Angeles is about 50 kilometers, approximately an hour's drive without traffic, but during rush hours it could stretch to 2 hours. She would return late, often after 10 in the evening, citing traffic jams and additional shoots. Her phone became her best friend. She kept it with her always, even when she went to shower, placed its screen down, quickly switched tabs if I entered the room. The strangest thing was that she set a new password, although previously we both knew each other's passwords. For blog security, she said when I asked. Too much confidential information from brands. I wanted to believe. God, how I wanted to believe. Then there were evenings when she refused our traditional walks, citing fatigue. She stopped being interested in my projects, answered monosyllabically when I tried to talk about work. In October my firm won a tender for designing an eco-friendly residential complex. This was a significant achievement for me, a chance to prove I could work with sustainable development concepts. Lily just nodded when I told her the news and immediately returned to her phone. The November rains washed away my last doubts. One evening when Lily went to an urgent shoot in Los Angeles, I remained alone in the apartment. Rain drummed on the windows, creating a rhythm to my thoughts. Something was wrong. Something fundamentally wrong. Her laptop remained on the couch. Lily had always been careless with technology. She could forget a charger, leave a tablet anywhere. I knew I shouldn't, but my hands reached for the device on their own. It wasn't locked. And what I saw shattered my heart into small pieces. Instagram direct messages. Dozens, hundreds of messages between Lily and Christopher. At first professional about angles and lighting. Then more personal, jokes, emojis. And then words that a married woman should never have written. Photos that another man's husband should never have seen. Today was incredible, she wrote. Can't wait for next time. Does your husband suspect? He asked. Jim? No. He's too busy with his drawings. I reread the correspondence for hours while she was in Los Angeles. Every message was a knife in the back. They weren't meeting at shoots. They were meeting in hotels at his friend's apartment, using work trips as cover. This had been going on for 3 months already. 3 long months during which I looked into her eyes every day, kissed her goodnight, talked about my day, while she was building another life in parallel. The worst part was realizing I wasn't a priority for her. In the correspondence with Christopher, she complained about our boring routine, about how I was predictable. She called our marriage a mistake she didn't know how to get rid of. I wasn't a husband, I was an obstacle. But the biggest blow was ahead. In one of the messages Christopher asked, "Do you love me?" And she answered, "I don't know. Probably not. But with you at least it's not boring." She didn't love him. And didn't love me anymore. Then why? Why all this? I took screenshots of key conversations, sent them to my email, and closed the laptop. When Lily returned around 11, wet from rain and excited, I sat in the darkness of the living room. "Jim? Why didn't you turn on the light?" Her voice was so familiar, so recognizable. "How was the shoot?" I asked calmly. "Good. We made wonderful shots for the new collection. Christopher is a real professional." Every word was a lie. Every sound of her voice cut my ears. I didn't tell her that night. Not the next day. I watched, studied, watched how she kissed me goodbye before another shoot, how she smiled when I asked about her day. She was an excellent actress, I had to admit that. A week later I drove to Los Angeles myself. Said I had a meeting with a potential client. Actually, I wanted to see it with my own eyes. The GPS on her phone, which I installed under the guise of security, after she supposedly got lost last month, showed an address in the Silver Lake area. I drove there in the morning and waited. At 12 Lily arrived. 5 minutes later, Christopher. They entered a small house, arm in arm. No cameras. No stylists. Just the two of them. I sat in the car for another 2 hours until they came out. Lily was laughing, he was holding her hand. They looked like a couple of teenagers in love. And I felt something inside me finally breaking. Returning home, I called an old friend Kent, whom I met back in university. He's a lawyer, specializes in divorces. "Need your help?" I said simply. Kent came that same evening. I showed him the screenshots, told him what I saw. He listened attentively, nodded, took notes. "You have everything necessary," he finally said. "Evidence of infidelity, correspondence. In California this is a no-fault divorce state, but this evidence will help with property division if she tries to sue for something." "I don't want to sue for anything," I replied. "I just want this to end. Then give me a week. I'll prepare all the documents." That week was the longest of my life. Lily continued going to Los Angeles, continued lying. I continued playing the role of the unsuspecting husband. We even made love once, and it was the worst because I felt like a stranger in my own marriage. My colleague Nicole noticed the changes. "Everything okay, Jim?" she asked one day at lunch. Nicole was a senior architect at our firm, a woman in her late 40s with a sharp mind and kind heart. "Domestic problems," I answered briefly. She nodded understandingly. "If you need to talk, I'm always here." Her support meant a lot to me, especially when everything around seemed unreal. The day came when Kent handed me the ready documents. I decided to do it quickly, like ripping off a Band-Aid. In the evening when Lily returned from another shoot, I sat at the kitchen table with folders in front of me. "We need to talk," I said when she entered. Something in my tone made her alert. "About what?" I unfolded the first screenshot and placed it in front of her on the table. Then the second. The third. Watched as color drained from her face, as her eyes widened in shock. "Jim, don't," I interrupted. "I know everything. I've known about Christopher for 3 months. About the hotels. About what you think of our marriage." She tried to take my hand, but I pulled away. "It's not what you think. Lily, I have all your correspondence. I saw you together in Los Angeles. Don't degrade us both with more lies." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Jim, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. It just happened." "Nothing just happens." My speech was cold, controlled. "You made choices. Every day. For 3 months you chose him instead of me. Chose lies instead of honesty. I was unhappy. You never understood. I didn't understand because you never said." For the first time I raised my voice. "We could have talked. Could have tried therapy. Could have done something. But you chose the easiest path, betrayal." Lily cried louder. "What do you want?" I pushed the folder with documents toward her. "I want a divorce. Everything's written here. We divide property equally, we sell the apartment, divide the proceeds in half. I don't claim your business, you don't claim my savings. Clean, quick, no drama." She looked at the papers as if not believing. "That's all?" "That's all," I confirmed. "Sign and we'll part ways. You can be with Christopher or whoever you want. I'm no longer standing in the way of your happiness." "What if I don't want a divorce?" Her voice was weak. Lily, you yourself wrote that our marriage is a mistake. I'm giving you an opportunity to fix this mistake. She sat silently for several minutes looking at the papers. Then, unexpectedly calmly asked, "And you? Did you ever truly love me?" The question surprised me. Of course I loved you. Why are you asking? Because sometimes it seemed to me that for you I was just a convenient option. A beautiful wife who doesn't interfere with your career. You never asked what I really wanted. Whether I was happy. You never said you were unhappy. Because you didn't listen. She wiped away tears. Fine. I'll sign. But no, I'm not the only one to blame for what happened. Maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't a perfect husband. But I didn't cheat. And that was the difference. Lily signed the documents that same night. The next day she packed her things and left. Not to Christopher as I expected. She rented a small apartment in Laguna Beach, away from Orange, away from memories. I called Christopher. Not for a scene of jealousy, just so he'd know. She's free, I said when he answered. Lily is divorcing me. Congratulations, you got what you wanted. There was a pause. Listen, dude, I didn't know she was married when we started. Lies? I interrupted. In your correspondence you asked about me. You knew. But you know what's funniest? She doesn't love you. She said so herself. For her you were just a way to escape from boredom. So enjoy your prize. I hung up before he could respond. The following months were a blurred spot of pain and adaptation. The apartment seemed empty without Lily's things, without her laughter, without the sounds of the camera during shoots. I immersed myself in work, spending 12 hours a day at the office. The eco-friendly complex project was progressing well. At least something wasn't falling apart in my life. Nicole often brought me coffee and sandwiches when she saw I was forgetting about food. Life goes on, she said. I know it doesn't seem like it now, but it goes on. Her friend Jonathan, also an architect working for another firm, invited me to basketball on weekends. At first I refused but then decided to try. Physical activity helped me not think. Through Kent I learned that Lily and Christopher broke up just a month after our divorce. He met another girl, a young model, and Lily suddenly found herself unnecessary. Irony of fate. She sent me a message in December, "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. Not because I hated her. The anger had long burned out into something calmer, resembling disappointment. There was just nothing to talk about. That page of my life had closed and I didn't want to turn it again. We sold the apartment in January. I bought a small studio closer to the office, minimalist and functional. Started over. Met with friends, went to exhibitions, traveled on weekends. Life, as Nicole said, went on. One day in February I was driving past Laguna Beach and thought about Lily. I wondered if she was happy now? Had she found what she was looking for? But these thoughts were already without pain, without bitterness. Just curiosity about a person who was once an important part of my life. I understood the main thing. The betrayal didn't happen because I was a bad husband, and not because Christopher was better than me. It happened because Lily didn't know what she wanted. And until she understood this, she would jump from one person to another, looking for something elusive. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click like if you enjoy this story. I always read your comments and analyze which stories you like best so that I can create better stories. Thank you. I will continue the story. And me? I learned to live on. Without anger, without revenge, without drama. Just accepted the lesson and moved on my way. Sometimes the best revenge is the absence of revenge. Just close the door and build a better life without those who didn't value your presence. Spring 2025 greeted me with a new project. A library from sustainable materials for the local community. Nicole became not just a colleague but a true friend with whom I could talk about everything. Jonathan involved me in a volunteer program. We taught architecture basics to teenagers from disadvantaged families. Life filled with new meaning. Without drama, without toxicity, without lies. And for the first time in many months I felt truly free. The divorce was finalized in March. The apartment sale brought enough money for both of us to start fresh. Lily moved her blog to a new platform, changed her style, tried to reinvent herself. I heard from mutual acquaintances that she was dating someone new, but I didn't ask for details. It wasn't my business anymore. What struck me most during this whole process was how easy it became to breathe once I stopped trying to save something that was already dead. Our marriage had been over long before I found those messages. I just hadn't wanted to see it. The late nights, the distant looks, the conversations that led nowhere. All the signs were there, I just chose to ignore them. Kent and I met for coffee one afternoon in April. He looked at me across the table, studying my face. "You look better," he said. "Healthier." "I feel better," I admitted. It's strange. I thought the divorce would destroy me, but instead it freed me. That's because you're not running from it anymore, Kent said. You're not pretending everything's fine when it isn't. You're facing reality, and reality isn't as scary as we think. He was right. The scariest part had been living in uncertainty, in that gray zone between knowing something was wrong and not knowing exactly what. Now everything was clear. Black and white. No more questions. My work improved too. The eco-friendly housing complex project won an award from the California Architecture Association. It was a small recognition, but it meant something. It meant I was moving forward, creating something meaningful while my personal life had been falling apart. During the award ceremony, Nicole was there, cheering louder than anyone else. "I'm proud of you," she said afterward. "Not just for this project, but for how you handled everything else. Not everyone can go through what you went through and come out stronger." I didn't feel stronger. I felt different. Changed. Like I'd shed an old skin that no longer fit and was still getting used to the new one. In May, I ran into one of Lily's former friends, a woman named Louisa who used to come to our apartment for dinner parties. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, like she wasn't sure whether to acknowledge me or pretend she hadn't seen me. "Jim," she said finally, walking up to me. "How are you?" "Good," I said honestly. "Really good." She seemed surprised by my answer. "I heard about everything. I'm sorry." "Don't be," I told her. "These things happen." "Lily," she started, then stopped. "Never mind." "It's okay," I said. "You can talk about her. I'm not going to fall apart." Louisa hesitated, then said, "She's struggling. The blog isn't doing as well. Lost a lot of sponsors after word got around about, people in the fashion industry talk." I felt a pang of something, not quite satisfaction, not quite sympathy. Maybe just acknowledgement that actions have consequences. "I hope she figures things out," I said, and I meant it. "You're very gracious," Louisa said. "I don't think I could be that understanding if I were in your position." "I'm not being gracious," I explained. "I'm just tired of being angry. Anger takes energy, and I'd rather use that energy on building something new than tearing down something old." We talked for a few more minutes, then parted ways. I walked back to my car feeling lighter somehow. Like I'd passed some kind of test I hadn't known I was taking. The summer brought new opportunities. A developer from San Diego reached out about designing a series of affordable housing units with sustainable features. It was exactly the kind of project I wanted to be working on. Something that made a difference, not just another cookie-cutter apartment complex. I threw myself into the work with renewed energy. The designs incorporated solar panels, rainwater collection systems, community gardens. It was ambitious, maybe too ambitious, but I didn't care. I wanted to create something that mattered. Jonathan and I started meeting regularly, not just for basketball but for dinner, for long walks along the beach, for conversations about life and architecture and everything in between. He'd been through his own divorce years ago and understood what I was going through in a way that others couldn't. "The first year is the hardest," he told me one evening as we watched the sunset from a cliff overlooking the Pacific. "Everything reminds you of them. Every song, every restaurant, every street corner. But gradually the memories lose their power. They become just memories, not wounds." I hoped he was right. Some days were easier than others. Some days I woke up and forgot, just for a moment, that I was single again. Those moments of forgetting, followed by the crash of remembering, were the hardest. But they were becoming less frequent. The sharp edges of grief were smoothing out, becoming something I could live with. In August, exactly a year after everything started, I went back to that art exhibition in Laguna Beach where Lily and I had first met. I didn't know why I went. Maybe I was testing myself, seeing if I could handle being there without falling apart. The gallery was showing a new artist, someone who created massive installations out of broken glass. The pieces were beautiful in their fragmentation, catching the light and throwing rainbow patterns across the walls. I stood in front of one particular piece for a long time, studying how the artist had taken something broken and made it into something new. "Powerful, isn't it?" a voice said beside me. I turned to see a woman about my age with dark hair and an easy smile. She was holding a catalog, clearly studying the art seriously rather than just browsing. "Very," I agreed. "I like how it doesn't try to hide the brokenness. It makes the brokenness part of the beauty." "Exactly," she said, her eyes lighting up. "I'm an art teacher at the community college. I bring my students here sometimes. It's important for them to see that destruction can lead to creation." We talked for a while about art and architecture, about how both disciplines dealt with space and form and meaning. Her name was Emma, and she had an enthusiasm that was infectious. When she asked if I wanted to grab coffee, I found myself saying yes. We walked to a small cafe down the street, one I'd been to dozens of times with Lily. But this time it didn't hurt. This time it was just a cafe, neutral territory, not loaded with memories of what used to be. Emma and I talked for 2 hours about everything and nothing. She told me about her students, about her passion for contemporary art, about the installation piece she was working on for a local festival. I told her about my architecture work, about the sustainable housing project, about my love for design that served a purpose beyond just looking good. When we finally parted ways, she gave me her number. "If you ever want to talk more about broken glass and beautiful buildings," she said with a smile. I took the number, but I didn't call right away. I wasn't ready yet, not really. But the fact that I could imagine calling, that I could imagine starting something new, felt like progress. The fall brought cooler weather and new beginnings. The sustainable housing project broke ground, and I was there for the ceremony, watching as the first earth was turned. Nicole stood beside me, taking pictures on her phone. "This is your legacy," she said. "Long after you're gone, people will be living in these homes, raising their families, building their lives. That matters more than any failed marriage." She was right, of course. But it didn't make the failure hurt any less. Just made it matter less in the grand scheme of things. I started volunteering more with Jonathan's program for disadvantaged teenagers. Teaching them about architecture, about how to see the world in terms of space and structure and possibility. One kid in particular, a 16-year-old named Marcus, reminded me of myself at that age, full of ideas and energy but no real direction. I worked with him one-on-one, teaching him to use design software, showing him how to think about buildings not just as structures but as solutions to problems. He soaked it up like a sponge, asking questions, challenging my assumptions, pushing back when he disagreed. "Why does everything have to be so expensive?" he asked one day. "Why can't we just build simple, cheap houses for people who need them?" "We can," I told him. "That's what I'm trying to do with the Sustainable Housing Project. But it's complicated. Building codes, zoning laws, material costs. It all adds up." "Then change the laws," he said simply. His idealism reminded me that architecture wasn't just about creating beautiful buildings, it was about creating a better world. I'd lost sight of that somewhere along the way, caught up in the day-to-day grind of office politics and client demands. Marcus helped me remember. By November, a full year after I'd discovered Lily's betrayal, I felt like a different person. Not healed exactly, I'm not sure you ever fully heal from something like that, but transformed. The experience had changed me, carved away parts of who I used to be and left something harder, more resilient in their place. I called Emma. We met for dinner at a restaurant overlooking the ocean. She wore a blue dress that matched her eyes, and when she smiled at me across the table, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, possibility. We didn't talk about my divorce. She didn't ask and I didn't offer. Instead we talked about her art installation, about my housing project, about the books we were reading and the movies we wanted to see. It was easy, comfortable, like slipping into warm water. When I dropped her off at her apartment, she kissed me on the cheek. "Thank you for tonight," she said. "I'd like to do this again." "Me too," I said. Driving home, I realized I was smiling. Not the forced smile I'd been wearing for months, but a real one. Life was moving forward, whether I was ready or not. December brought the first anniversary of Lily signing the divorce papers. I didn't mark it, didn't dwell on it. Just another day, another step forward. The housing project was taking shape, the frames of the buildings rising against the sky like promises of what was to come. Emma and I were seeing each other regularly now. Nothing serious, nothing rushed. Just two people enjoying each other's company, taking things slow. She understood, without me having to explain, that I needed time. That I was still healing, still figuring out who I was outside of that failed marriage. One evening in late December, as we walked along the beach watching the waves crash against the shore, Emma said, "You know what I like about you, Jim? You don't pretend to have all the answers. You're still figuring things out and you're honest about it. Is that a good thing?" I asked. "It's a real thing," she said. "And real is always better than perfect." Thank you for watching this video. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.